As we go to air tonight, police and emergency crews are sealing off a busy street in Greenacre, the scene of a horror peak hour crash. A dozen people have been injured and a driver arrested after an SUV ploughed into the front of a clothing store.
At the traffic lights at Greenacre, horns are blaring, two cars smoking up their wheels.
What's wrong?
Before a direct hit, an SUV slams into the Hijab House clothing store. A driver close by captures another angle. It's just as brutal.
What the hell?
As the driver ploughs in,
They just showed up.
causing shock and shattered glass. And at least 12 people, customers and staff, injured. The driver, in a white tracksuit, remains at the wheel as emergency crews arrive.
Across the Midwest, days of pounding rainwater swelled to historic floods that swallowed entire towns.
The dam has failed. 100% failure. Evacuate the area.
The worst of the waterborne havoc swept over central Michigan, where surging waters overwhelmed two nearly century-old dams, submerging whole towns beneath the deluge, and driving those quarantining from the pandemic out of their homes and into the streets. In a prescient warning, one of the breached dams, the town of Midland's 96-year-old Edenville Dam, was rated unsatisfactory in 2018. It's now the latest failure in a nationwide infrastructure crisis.
The fate of the occupied West Bank has represented a running sore in relations between Israel and the Palestinians for decades. But a renewed pledge by the Israeli Prime Minister to finally annex it has alarmed the international community. Addressing the Security Council online, the UN Middle East peace envoy warned that such a move would wreck any remaining chances of a peace settlement. Israel has been emboldened by support from the United States. The Trump administration has published its own peace plan for the region, which recognizes Israel's sovereignty over illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. The US ambassador to the UN said the conflict could only be resolved through negotiation.
In the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, the queue at the petrol station can last for days. The shortages have plagued Venezuela for years, ever since its 1.3 million barrel a day refining network collapsed, which critics blame on underinvestment and mismanagement by the state oil company. Now President Nicolas Maduro has turned to Iran for help, for fuel itself and chemicals to help get the oil industry back on track.
Those 5 ships are bringing gasoline. Regarding the technical support for the reactivation of the refinery, what the Venezuelan government asked us for in the past weeks was to bring input materials, catalysts, which Iran brought through the planes.
Ship tracking shows the first of the 5 tankers left the Iranian port city of Bandar Abbas in March. The first tanker, Fortune, is expected to arrive in Venezuela in the next few days.
A number of people have been shot dead, we believe, in Kwamakuta in Durban.
What happened around 1800, that's 6 o'clock this evening, there was a shooting in a house behind me where 7 people aged between 18 and 30 were all shot in the head and they died on the scene. We are not sure at the moment of what might have led to the attack.
Distraught family members rushed to Venice Beach early this morning after finding out the body of Shad Gaspard had washed up on shore 3 days after he'd been swept away in a strong rip current. The 39-year-old former WWE wrestler had been swimming with his 10-year-old son Sunday afternoon when the two got caught in the waves. When lifeguards swam out to help, Gaspard reportedly told them to focus on the boy. But lifeguards weren't able to get back to Gaspard, and even though they brought in air units and divers with sonar equipment, their efforts to find him were unsuccessful.
All right, so let's start with the updates that are coming in from Russia, where the number of coronavirus infections has crossed the grim figure of over 300,000. Russia now stands behind only the United States in the number of infections that have been recorded. The death toll, however, due to COVID-19, and this is where it's pretty surprising, is 3,099. And this comes just after Russia had claimed that the coronavirus situation is stabilizing, since there were more patients getting discharged from hospitals than new cases of infections being detected.
Let's update you on developments across Latin America. First, Brazil, which is marking its deadliest day from coronavirus since the start of this pandemic. For the first time, the country's daily death toll reached 1,000 people. The country now has the third highest deaths from coronavirus in the world. And as infections soar, warnings from Brazil's biggest city, Sao Paulo, are dire. Officials there believe that the health system is close to collapse. Well, there have been many twists in President Bolsonaro's strategy in tackling this pandemic. And here's another one. Today, the government loosened its protocols of the use of the unproven drug hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19, despite warnings by experts that it has dangerous side effects.
Ugandan legislator Francis Zake gets goose pimples as he recalled his alleged torture at the hands of police. Police officers raided his house on April 19 and arrested him for flouting the president's order against politicians giving food aid during the COVID-19 lockdown. Zake says police hung him by chains inside a police truck and physically abused him. Critics say Ugandan state security are using excessive force and, in some cases, targeting the government's political opponents while enforcing the coronavirus lockdown.
Greek police have been accused of beating up migrants and illegally deporting them back to Turkey. Reports that Greek security forces physically assaulted migrants emerged earlier this year when thousands gathered in border areas after Turkey encouraged them to leave to Europe. But now DW and other investigative reporters have been able to confirm some stories of abuse and illegal deportations after tracking down victims in Turkey. They allege Greek police arrested them without a warrant and forced them onto boats back to Turkey.